All across America, folks are walking into gun shops, not with panic, not with fear, but with a clear mission. Gun sales are spiking again, even though there's no sweeping federal ban, no riots in the streets, no breaking news triggering a run on ammo. So the question is, why? What's really driving this calculated buying surge happening in both red states and blue cities right now? In this video, we're gonna break it down, from rising economic tensions to tactical preppers quietly topping off their ammo stockpiles, from gun store owners bracing for tariff-driven price hikes, to liberal first-timers nervously unboxing their very first Glock. There's a much deeper story unfolding as we head into 2025. Current market trends. January rolled in. No sirens, no flipped-over cars, no breaking news banners screaming about new restrictions on 30-round magazines. The same storefronts that were boarded up with plywood just 2 years ago? Now they're showcasing neat rows of lever-action rifles, carbon fiber hunting rigs, and those retro-styled revolvers that never really went out of style. On the surface, the sales floor feels calm, almost relaxed. But underneath that casual small talk about Cerakote finishes and optics cuts, there's something much more intentional happening. Folks aren't sprinting to the counter like they did back during those first lockdowns, but they're still buying. And they're buying smart. Instead of grabbing whatever's left on the shelves, people are walking in with notebooks, ammo spreadsheets, and precise SKU numbers pulled straight off Google. Everyone remembers how completely stripped those shelves were back in 2020. Nobody wants to get caught like that again. One father spent time comparing carbine weights because his teenage daughter might have to shoulder it if the lights go out. A first-time pistol buyer, who hesitated 5 years ago, booked her appointment the moment the New Year's fireworks stopped popping. At the center of every conversation, one word: uncertainty. No riots, no sweeping bans, but headlines about drone attacks hitting shipping lanes, rolling blackouts, wild commodity price swings. All of it is planting seeds of doubt. Gun counters feel that tension when customers linger, tracing their fingers along accessory rails while silently doing the math on rising grocery bills. Today's demand isn't panicked, it's calculated. Buyers are topping off calibers they already own, making sure every member of the family knows how to run every piece of gear they've got. The panic buying phase might be behind us, but the preparedness phase, that's fully engaged, and it's going to define the rest of 2025. Political and economic influences. Dealers who survived the so-called Trump slump back in 2017 still remember it like it was yesterday. Quiet showrooms, shelves packed with AR lowers, and polymer-framed pistols collecting dust. See, when a pro-gun president took office, a lot of folks figured the fight was over. They closed their wallets. The buying slowed to a crawl. And now, as 2025 kicks off with the GOP firmly controlling Capitol Hill, some shop owners are bracing for that same pattern to repeat. But what they're actually seeing tells a very different story. Shoppers today? They're not talking about filibusters or what's happening on the Senate floor. They're talking about food prices. They're comparing notes on driveway security cameras while they're asking about red dot durability. For many folks now, firearms aren't just about politics anymore. They've become a core piece of a much bigger personal resilience toolkit. One craftsman from Ohio said it best: "I voted for less regulation, but storms and supply chains don't care who's sitting in the White House." He was standing at the counter buying a .22 conversion kit, so his kids can keep training even if 9mm cracks $6 a box again. Distributors are reporting steady demand on the practical gear: slings, spare mags, plate carriers, not impulse buys, but the kind of long-term commitment purchases that say, "We're thinking ahead." Panic sales? They spike, then crash. But these strategic purchases, they plateau. They hold steady. If 2025 manages to dodge any major new legislation, we might avoid the wild, chaotic sales spikes of the past. But even without the panic, the market remains strong. The firearms market's maturing. People have learned hard lessons from shortages, riots, and supply chain shocks. And fewer buyers are letting political comfort lull them into a false sense of security. That habit? That mindset? It's what keeps gun shop registers ringing, even when there's no scary headline flashing on the evening news. Shifting buyer mindset. That shift is forcing us to rethink the old idea that every surge in gun sales is triggered by congressional drama. Range managers from Missouri to Maine all say the same thing. Folks have grown numb to the political talking points. After living through a pandemic that emptied hospitals, riots that blocked highways, and energy prices that spiked overnight, a lot of households have made the decision to focus on what they can control and ignore the rest. A recent poll shows it clear. Concerns about personal safety, the economy, and natural disasters now rank higher than potential gun bans for many first-time gun owners. Missouri firearms instructor Paul Bastian said it plain and simple. Voters no longer trust politicians to fix anything, so they plan accordingly. Just look at the 2020 timeline. First the virus, then the layoffs, then the unrest. None of those disasters required any new legislation to create danger, and consumers took note. Now, the average buyer walks into the shop with cash already set aside for resilience gear, no matter which party's holding the gavel in D.C. Sure, political theater still grabs headlines, but in the suburbs, what's really driving gun ownership today is catalytic converter theft rings, delayed police response times, and Mother Nature throwing curveballs. The firearms community used to worry that after every win for the Second Amendment, complacency would take over. Instead, we might be entering a whole new phase, where gun ownership stays steady, no matter which way the political winds blow. And that steady mindset is smoothing out the wild roller coaster that's bankrupted plenty of small gun shops in years past. Economic pressures and tariffs. You know what might hit the hardest this year? Not Bidenomics, not Trumpomics, straight-up economics. The administration has already promised sharp tariffs on strategic imports, and steel is right up near the top of that list. Just the rumor of a 20+% duty had barrel makers scrambling. Imported 4140 alloy has kept production costs down for countless manufacturers. If that tariff hits, companies are looking at either slimmer profit margins or higher sticker prices. Suppliers are already warning dealers to expect price hikes by summer, and savvy customers are buying ahead before those increases kick in. Even the ammo factories are watching the same freight indexes because primers still travel by ship, even when the box says Made in USA. Add in diesel surcharges for rail freight, and cartridge prices are likely to climb again. That alone has plenty of shooters topping off their stockpiles while prices are still manageable. The irony? A policy that's supposed to boost domestic manufacturing could temporarily raise costs for the very consumers who support it, at least until American foundries can close the gap. Dealers near the ports are bracing for a bumpy quarter, expecting supply to eventually stabilize once reshoring ramps up. But in the meantime, crates of affordable imports might dry up or jump in price, and buyers who waited too long could find that the new cost of entry isn't so friendly anymore. Retail challenges. While customers are crunching numbers, retailers are dealing with a different kind of math: payroll. Running a gun shop in 2025 takes a lot more than a firm handshake across the counter. Modern compliance software, point-of-sale systems, and omni-channel inventory management all demand staff that can handle tech. Not just talk guns, but the labor pool? still tight. Over in North Carolina, Hyatt Guns had to outsource its entire IT and e-commerce operation after losing 2 in-house coders to better-paying fintech jobs. Replacing them would have cost the shop almost double what they were paying back in 2019. Out in California, dealers face a different kind of headache: rising minimum wages. And that trickles through every pay grade, forcing raises for armorers and range safety officers just to keep morale up. Owners quietly admit they now hire 3 people just to keep one after the honeymoon phase wears off. Training green employees from scratch burns valuable time, but the bigger risk: untrained staff making mistakes on background check paperwork. And that brings federal fines nobody wants. Some shop owners are adapting by cutting weekday hours and shifting classes into the evenings, when part-timers from other industries can fill in. Fewer clerks on the floor means longer wait times. And in a world where customers can order almost anything online with 2 quick taps, every minute of waiting risks losing that sale. Retailers who figure out the staffing puzzle will hold a serious competitive edge, one that no amount of marketing dollars can buy. Manufacturing innovations. Innovation might look slow on the surface. No space-age rifles stole the show this winter. But if you look inside the factories, change is happening fast. Tooling upgrades and better carbide coatings let the cutters run faster, last longer, and drop defect rates. That helps hold MSRP increases in check. AI-powered quality control stations are now scanning every slide serration for burrs and measuring chamber dimensions with lasers, all in milliseconds. Those kinds of efficiencies are cutting lead times so dramatically that one custom shop out in Utah slashed its backlog from 18 months down to 9. And they didn't hire a single extra machinist to do it. Customers feel that improvement when their dealer calls weeks earlier than expected to say their pistol's ready. Faster fulfillment encourages buyers to pull the trigger on multi-gun purchases instead of spacing them out. The real innovation isn't just on the sales floor anymore, it's deep in the supply chain. The result? More reliable guns delivered faster. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Small builders are jumping in. Entry-level CNC packages, once only used by the big automotive companies, are now affordable enough for garage startups to get in the game. Expect to see more boutique slide-cut houses and Cerakote studios popping up this year, feeding that growing hunger for personalization, while expanding the pool of skilled talent that keeps this entire industry fresh. Popular firearm trends. Market data shows exactly where all these new manufacturing efficiencies are going. Optics-ready micro-compacts, like the SIG P365 family, and Glock's MOS variants, are still dominating every wish list. Capacity that once needed a bulky double-stack brick now fits inside a pistol barely larger than the old-school single stacks. And the builders keep dialing in recoil spring geometry to tame that snappy muzzle rise. Red dot adoption? It's exploding. The dots keep getting smaller. The batteries now run past 50,000 hours. Shooters who used to scoff at optics 5 years ago are now demanding them, citing aging eyes and faster target acquisition as the reasons why. Out in California, the handgun roster situation added a new twist. Lawsuits forced the state to finally admit micro-stamping tech simply doesn't exist at scale. That opened the door for a dozen popular models to finally clear the legal hurdles, unleashing years of pent-up demand. Stores near the state line say customers are lining up before opening hours to snag pistols that were basically forbidden fruit for over a decade. Nationally, the micro-compact craze shows no sign of slowing down. Even some revolver diehards are admitting, when uncertainty dominates the evening news, a 15-round blaster with a dot and a compensated slide is pretty hard to argue against. And the accessory market is following right along. Slim weapon lights, discreet appendix holsters, low-profile mag carriers, all turning these base guns into fully modular ecosystems that keep dealer margins healthy. Changing demographics. Online, this shift is playing out in real time. Reddit's AR Liberal Gun Owners Group has exploded in traffic this year, with unique visitors tripling since February. Threads titled, "Bought My First AR, Change My Mind," are generating surprisingly civil discussions, full of torque spec advice and magazine spring recommendations. Over on Quora, you've got confessional essays from coastal professionals, folks who never thought they'd own a firearm, until a spike in follow-home robberies forced them to rethink everything they assumed about policing. Even the legacy media is starting to catch on. A national poll recently showed that self-identified Democrats made up nearly 1 in 5 new gun permit applications last quarter. Some old-school FUDs are dismissing it as just a statistical blip. But gun dealers? They're feeling it in real dollars. One shop manager out in Phoenix told me that weekend sales now split almost evenly. Half the customers wearing Uncle Sam t-shirts, and the other half rocking climate change slogans. The counter-talk might feel awkward at first, but shared interest in safe handling and marksmanship tends to bridge those ideological gaps pretty quick. This wave is breaking the old narrative that Second Amendment culture is monolithic. Instead, it's opening the door to a broader coalition in future legislative battles. And you see it at the ranges, too. After-hours competitions now pull in both the old-school USPSA crowd and first-timers who wandered in after watching clips on social media. Empty lanes turn into profitable events, bringing new blood into the firearms community. Training and inventory management. Training is still the crown jewel. A 3-day introductory pistol course priced at $200 fills up faster than any Black Friday sale, because the graduates see real value, and they're sharing it across group chats and text threads. But even the smartest menu of services can't save a balance sheet that's overloaded with the wrong inventory. The final hangover from that pandemic buying frenzy is sitting right there. Unsold stock eating up capital. One dealer down in Florida told me straight up, he's still sitting on crates of Turkish pump guns he ordered sight unseen, simply because everything else was sold out at the time. Now, those shotguns are buried behind newer imports that customers actually want. But the distributor's invoice still has to be paid. Liquidation sales can help, sure, but they crush margins and train buyers to sit back and wait for the next deep discount. The better move is ruthless inventory management. Audit what's sitting, bundle the slow movers with hot accessories, and reinvest into products that actually turn. Manufacturers offering buyback or exchange programs start to look less like vendors and more like lifelines. Running lean also cuts carrying costs and frees up wall space for higher-value experiences, like gun try programs, where shooters can rent and test different models before committing to a purchase. In an industry where every square foot of retail space has to pull its weight, dead stock isn't just a nuisance, it's an anchor. Dealers who cut that anchor early will be in the best position to strike when the next big news event triggers a fresh buying surge. The ones still drowning in dusty SK us? They'll just watch opportunity sail right past. Customer trust and experience. All of these trends come together around one simple fact. Firearms are discretionary purchases. Even hardcore enthusiasts can skip buying that new rifle if the buying experience feels cold, transactional, or the price just feels too high. But when a shop earns trust, that same shooter is more than willing to pay a little extra or wait out a shipping delay, because that trust makes the difference. Without it, they'll hit add to cart on some faceless website and never look back. And that's going to do it for today's breakdown. Are folks in your area picking up new firearms? Have you spotted new faces showing up at your local range? Drop your thoughts and stories down in the comments. We always want to hear from you. And don't forget, hit that like button, share this video with your fellow freedom lovers, subscribe for more gun content like this, and make sure you smash that bell icon so you never miss an update.